That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Claude Coinga.
And tonight we're talking Raya and the Last Dragon, the latest feature-length animated film from Walt Disney Animation Studios. And let's just dive into things right off the bat, guys. I'll go ahead and dive in with my thoughts, and we'll just kind of go round table with our thesis statements, and then kind of go from there and kick things off. So I think this movie is a couple steps away from being an all-timer for Disney, and unfortunately, a couple of the things that drag it down, unfortunately, really drag it down, and we'll get into it when we get into it. But I think specifically Aquafina's dialogue, especially in the first half of the movie, just like there was a point in the movie where I was like, "Oh dear God! Oh, just with the modern references already, Jesus!" But overall, I think this movie is pretty fantastic. I really do. I mean, I need to watch it a couple more times to really solidify my opinion on it. But I think it has a very likable cast of characters. I think the world building, while it leans a little bit on the exposition, the exposition's a little heavy in the first act. That's to be expected. I think the world building in general is pretty cool. And I am a big fan of the Civil War style giant title cards for the locations. That's honestly one of my favorite elements of the movie, is kind of the framing device. Generally speaking, I do think it feels like a nice step forward for Disney in terms of this is basically Disney, please stop wasting our time with live action remakes and give us more of this. I want more of this. Just the creativity, the real building. Like I said, the humor didn't really land with me, but there's so many other good things about it. And I especially just James Newton Howard and that goddamn score is just, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, I would put this score up there with the likes of, I don't want to say the Inside Out score, but, maybe like the How to Train Your Dragon score in terms of, and I know Inside Out was I'm just thinking like all-timers in the animation field. I mean, this one really stuck with me, man. There were parts of the story that didn't really I think it's a super predictable story, but I think the real building, the character development, the action, the animation, the score, I mean, there's so many good qualities to this. With the $30 price tag, at first I was a little worried, like I said, with the Aquafina character and everything. But honestly, the way everything came together, I'm glad I own this, because this is a feat in a lot of ways with the storytelling and the animation and the music. Like, I will be definitely watching this again. So, all right, I'm going to throw it over to Claude. What do you think of this one, Claude?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty great movie. It definitely shows how far we come in terms of like Disney princess movies. Like, there's no like love interest in this one.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I don't even really, I didn't even think of this as a Disney princess movie, although I guess technically it is.
yeah, it's like Mulan or Moana. She's like
right,
a chief's daughter, so. And it's not musical; it's more actiony, which fits well with the animation and the story and the music.
Mm-hmm.
And the antagonist was interesting, and it wasn't like some dumb like villain reveal that dragged out the entire movie.
I thought the mother was going to be the twist villain at a certain point. I was like, "Oh, I see where you're going with this, Disney." But no, they held their reins back on that.
Wait, which part did you think?
Specifically the part where the mother of the antagonist is kind of like, "No, we cannot trust them. We have to hold on to our nation, our people." I was like, okay, so the mother is basically like pulling a Fire Nation on us. She's kind of like every man for himself. But no, they really didn't go that far with it, and I think her reasons for not trusting the other colonies were pretty straightforward. So I know there were definitely a lot of points where Disney could have gone in an easier direction with it. Basically, basically, I kind of equate this is what I wanted something like Brave or Frozen 2 to be. This kind of gave me that epic adventure kind of Kingdom Hearts feeling that I was looking for with those two movies. I'm sorry, Claude. Go ahead, though.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this movie would make a great animated series too. If they want to make
Yeah.
an animated series
Definitely.
for this, to add to the other ones that they're doing for Disney Plus.
All right. So Dragon, what's your thesis?
Well, I'll tell you, I thought this was a very solid film. With a really strong and well conveyed moral. Love the moral in this one. I love how it was kind of very thematically, composed and how it just kind of came to fruition. I really like that. I got a big Avatar vibe, Avatar: Last Airbender vibe, that kind of helped this stand out to me.
I think people are kind of being a little harsh on it because of the Avatar thing, but to me, it's almost kind of like with the Avatar thing, it's kind of like, well, yeah, but if you're going to criticize this for being an Avatar clone, you got to criticize Avatar for being a Star Wars clone.
What's wrong with little Avatar? That's my question. I mean,
right.
Come on.
No, I'm just saying it's a different riff on the same like iconic story structure in a lot of ways,
We've been wanting Disney to make movies like that for a while now. Why not?
You know what? No one can ever be happy, Dragon. So it's the internet.
I like that it did, with the message in the more. I like that it didn't spoon feed the message, and just it's fundamentally, fundamentally the story and kind of the big kind of the trust lesson of the whole piece. It's fundamentally about kind of the universal theme that. Basically, it's kind of like an observation about human nature. That's kind of what the story is, and we've kind of conveyed that through this, kind of this Southeast Asian lore in a really interesting way. With the tribes, and again through kind of like the big 500 years ago kind of dragon kind of stone thing. That was all that. So it's a really well formulated just kind of story, and just kind of very straightforward and how it's conveyed. And again, like the morals is just like simply kind of shoehorned in, or we had to like really hit on top of the head, like, hey, this is now. It's none of that. I will say this: here's my reservation about Raya. Love the movie, but I fear, because I like the movie, I fear that because of the way this thing was released, I fear that this is going to get lost in the shuffle, and I think that's
it's totally going to get onwarded. It's absolutely going to get onwarded. It's because 2021 onward for sure.
And that's the thing, that's just a shame to me, because this is a quality Disney film, man. This is like in the tomes of like not of the same film necessarily, but I'm saying kind of in that lost to time. But again, maybe down the line it would get kind of its day in the sun. A little bit of Emperor's New Groove, or some of the other lost gems. You know what I mean? Like the ones that are great, but hardly people didn't really see him or really kind of have a lot of buzz about him at the time. But years later,
I got kind of a Treasure Planet vibe.
That's the more apt comparison for sure. I'm just
yeah.
Like, that's in the vein of the Emperor's New Groove. Those movies.
Like
that were
honestly,
released,
when I was watching this, I kind of got the vibe, like sort of when I was watching Treasure Planet for the first time, of like, man, why are more people not talking about this? This is really quality storytelling right here.
Yeah, it's in kind of that vein of those films that came out that again didn't really kind of fall into vogue until years later, or at least get talked about more until years later. This one I don't think it's going to take nearly as long to get to that point, but still it's going to take time that it shouldn't have to wait for. This thing came to play. No one wants, and there's no one to play with.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Dragon, do you want to go into any background on this, or should we just dive right into it?
Let's just no background.
Just dive right into it? Okay. All right. So what do we think of the prologue, guys? Because I really thought this was a great way to introduce things. It kind of had like a great kind of almost a Lord of the Rings feel in how everything got set up. Kind of like the whole like Dragon said, like the 500 years ago and everything, just kind of tying everything together. What do y'all think? And the trust issues thing. I thought the trust issues thing was a really, really solid theme too.
Well, first off, the way they convey the lore is really, they use this sort of I don't know what the exact name for it is, but because it's not really shadow puppetry, but it's like the paper kind of marionettes they use to do the shadow puppetry, which looked really cool. It was a really cool way to kind of like kind of do that. And again, it's a little Coco-esque in a sense. Like Coco opens with the we do kind of like we convey the story in kind of that paper style as well. top of it there.
Yeah, so I really like the setup, like I said, with the rivalry, that initial opening scene, because what I liked about it is that I thought at first that we were going to go in a really standard direction of like, oh, okay, like almost like a Fox and the Hound vibe, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, they were best friends as kids, but then they get torn apart by differences. Oh boy. But no, I mean, there's a hard betrayal very early on in this movie. It shapes Raya's character.
So with the opening, one just to kind of circle around Raya a little bit too with that is, of course, the opening test thing was really cool. Seeing kind of the father-daughter bond and kind of that opening scene with the younger Raya, and just seeing kind of like that scene, this whole trust thing opens the film after like the whole like the little paper kind of puppet rehash of just demonstration of the whole Druin story and what happened in the dragon sacrificing himself to save humanity, stuff that we're going to pick up on later once our story really gets cooking. But speaking of getting cooking, so I love that we have the father-daughter story. We set up her skills, we set up her cleverness, and we meet her father, her Ba, if you will, Chief Benja, if I'm remotely pronouncing that correctly, played by the wonderful Daniel Day Kim, who usually sometimes he plays a real prick, but in this case,
Hey, no, Drake, I'm so glad you bring that up, Dragon. I'm so glad you bring that up, because I know Daniel Day Kim is Jin from Lost. And Jin from Lost, he started as a character who was very rough around the edges, but man, he grew into such a sweetheart, and he had such a epic, Anyways, so this is the Daniel Day Kim that I am familiar with, Dragon, and I'm so glad that we are finally on the same page about him now.
Yeah, see, I have the good doctor Daniel Day Kim reference.
Right.
Anyway, so this character, I love her father so much in this film because her father represents her whole arc and what she needs to learn in the movie with the trust. Is that this guy has an optimistic worldview. He wants to fix the separated world that got separated, hundreds of, 500 years ago. Basically, the whole land used to be pretty much, again, a little bit of the Avatar opening with the whole, the nations kind of separated, with the Commandra. And of course, they kind of separating the parts of the dragon as their nation names. And I love the symbol of this in the story with this little father-daughter motive, the soup. Like, says, what are we gonna do? We're gonna do a little battle plan. We're gonna think about how to take him out. Says, no, we're gonna make soup. Like, what? We're
gonna make them a dinner.
Exactly, we're inviting to dinner, and I love the soup is like this symbol of hopes and unity. It's like you're sitting down to talk, and again, the soup is comprised of like an herbs or spices or elements from each of these 5 tribes, and it's great foreshadow. And like you have all these other thematic things, like Raya can't cook outside of this one dish. Like all she can do is make that dried fruit jerky no one wants. That's her doing something on her own versus like everything coming together. Again, people from all these different places, which again is like that's the lesson she needs to learn. All kind of shrunken down into a food analogy. I love it.
Yeah, really nice. Like I said, I feel like a lot of this world building is kind of like building off of stuff that I felt was kind of like developed in movies like Brave and Frozen 2, but it's kind of like a more perfected version of that, especially Frozen 2. Like I said, like with this whole thing in particular, I'm getting a strong sense of like, okay, this is the because Dragon Claude, I'm sure you remember how hyped Dragon and I were for Frozen 2 upon that first teaser trailer. Like honestly, for as mixed opinions as I have about Frozen 2, I still think that teaser trailer is fucking fantastic. I really do.
Especially with the water animation.
Yes. And so with that in mind, I mean, this is like I said, this is kind of a culmination of that. Like, yes, like we're actually getting like really interesting real building and different like I said, like I feel like this takes on a lot of different influences. It definitely has a strong Avatar vibe. I also thought it had a kind of a Black Panther vibe too, with the different tribes and
the border tribe and
right, exactly. And you got some Lord of the Rings elements in there. You got some a little bit of Mad Max in the first act. With the desert environment, so I feel like this movie it's working with a lot of different ingredients. I feel like it pulls it off well,
much like the soup.
Oh yes.
But I love the get back. I'm sorry to circle back to the trust point too.
Yeah, it's all good.
Kind of what sets things here is that so basically, her father's a man trying to dispel the myth that they were tasked with guarding the magical orb that kind of saved everyone's bacon 500 years ago.
Mhm.
Kind of led basically this. He's trying to dispel this myth that hey, whoever holds the orb has all this prosperity and everything, but it's like a placebo effect. It's like no, it doesn't matter who has the orb. It's a symbol of importance. It's like it's a relic. It's not like a thing that like blesses the land with plentiful goods and success and values and everything. I love that this film really cuts to the heart of human nature in a really fascinating way, where it's like we see the tribes the tribes just botch things so horribly because of greed and jealousy of it's the greed and jealousy of humanity and civilization being its own undoing. Okay, they broke the orb because they were greedy to get the orb, and which basically caused like a Thanos snap equivalent with the 6 years later of like, well, everyone's turned the stone now, and 6 years later we're still trying to fix the world. And yeah, I thought that was a really gutsy move. Like, yeah, my God, like we're seeing it wasn't like we had a bad guy. Yes, we had an antagonist who goes like it's kind of like a villain redemption story, like redeeming a villain story with Namari.
It's like Zuko in an hour and a half, man, and I love it.
Which is great. I think Namari is the most interesting character in the film. By the way,
absolutely. I like when the movie first started out, I was worried that we were going to kind of go down, like I said, like I use the Zuko comparison favorably because I thought it was maybe going to be a little bit rushed, but like no, we get into it like the turn, like there is some pretty shocking stuff that happens before the turn actually takes place, and the turn happens in a really intense kind of way, and I think it's pretty satisfying. Like from the get-go, that eventually they're gonna get on the same page. It's like with that first interaction they have together. There's no way there's no way they're gonna set up an interaction that's that deep without having it pay off. But by the same token, the fact that they have such a deep connection right from the get-go, I feel like it makes it all the more potent that the betrayal on both their ends cuts so deep. So I was really invested in all that.
Yeah, and the Druin, they're kind of like a mustache twirly villain, but again, I love they're amorphous though. They're not really villain. Again, they're a force of nature before they're a villain. It's like this.
They kind of remind me of the villains from Titan AE of all things.
Yeah, no, it sounds about right. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they bring it up. Yeah, pretty,
I mean, like they have a much cooler design than those two, but
sure, but it makes more sense in those too.
Serve a similar function.
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry,
but yes. Anyway, so I love that. Let's talk about Namari here. Bridge things. The story hinges on trust and the beliefs of the older generation poisoning the hope for the future generation, i.e., the Namari and Raya, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And just having her mother, Verana, if I'm getting that right, the Sandro character, and Verana, Namari's mother, had basically kind of like coax her daughter into, okay, listen, you're gonna gain the trust. You go play with Raya, gain her trust, and steal the orb. And again, that's the older. And again, I love that we see that Namari and Raya do have like a genuine connection. They're both big, Sisu fans, man. They love the dragon.
She even gave her a gift. The dragon golden thing. Yeah.
All right, I love the dragon symbol. I love the dragon symbol. I'm not a fan of the dragon nerd moniker. I'm gonna say that much.
Well, it's funny though. It's funny that like Sisu's whole gimmick is about, I got to give someone a gift. Where again, that Sisu symbol was kind of the original gift that's kind of linked with this dragon character in a sense. It's kind of, it's kind of cute. But yes, I mean, you see, they were just kids, kind of set up, kind of setting the path against each other. There, in that case, they kind of very Fox and the Hound-esque. Yes,
sure, but what I'm saying is that like it's I feel like it gets a lot more intense, a lot more quickly than Fox and the Hound does.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I love that we set up such a vivid and clear-cut instant betrayal from the Raya character that we just spent a little time with. And you understand completely, oh, my God, I thought my father's, like, trying to get me to trust people. I trust just the little
soup metaphor, girl. Man. The soup metaphor. It made so much sense.
I'm trusting the neighbor girl, and look what she did to me. She ruined everything. And then they basically set all these chains of the whole chain of events here, and they of course put them all on dodge because again the greed of humanity. It just kind of like it made them pay. And by the way, I love that it's a nice little historical nod too, like the way we kind of did the Thanos snap, if you will. We turned everyone to stone, which again is not dead, just means they're basically comatose. And I want to say it's a little nod to the Great Wall of China thing. We have all those stone statues on the Great Wall or under the Great Wall, within the whole, that old thing. It's kind of a neat little historical nod. They kind of found a way of kind of find a middle ground for how can we take everyone out of the equation without killing them necessarily, because that's gonna be too gruesome. Like again, much like the Thanos snap, we do bring people back. So I guess this is the perfect middle ground. We didn't dust them necessarily.
Mm-hmm. And the father didn't die either, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like how it's like a tangible thing that's worth fighting for, but it still seems like a real challenge to get to.
Yeah.
Certainly. Again, it's like Raya also is like in the pursuit of hope right now, pursuit of like the last hope of like, well, I gotta undo this. Unfortunately, no one else everyone just seems to have given up. They've all abandoned the hope. They've all like kind of retreated in themselves. Or basically, as she learns, as she goes on her journey, she learns it's not so much people have given up, it's more so people have just they're suffering from the loss, and they just don't have the fight in them to really kind of seek out a solution, it seems.
Right.
And again, the closest one doing that seems like it might be Namari, because she's tasked with finding the other orb pieces as well. So go figure. She works as like a great opposite of Raya. She Raya and her father, and Namari and her mother. Which again, her mother, as we see, her mother means well, but again wants to keep it on their terms. So
like I said, she's like maybe the closest thing that like the two of them together. But I feel like the mother in particular, like you feel like if this was a lesser movie, then they go kind of like the Mayor Bellwether approach of like, ha ha ha, it was my evil plan the whole time.
Well, she means well. She did tell the little girl, "Hey, steal,
right.
Steal our gracious host is the magic orb, and betray his daughter. Do that."
Oh, that's Sandra Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep, seriously, killing
and
Eve.
give her PTSD.
So in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, then we get the time jump, man, and I was really impressed with it. I was, as Dragon would say, I'm going to use one of your words, Dragon. I was gobsmacked by the time jump and the whole like the big bold letters stating the location and in the Mad Max of it all. I mean, I just thought this whole opening scene kind of had like a big kind of like Mad Max meets Raiders of the Lost Ark, Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe to it. It was great until Sisu started speaking, but we'll get to that.
Okay, well, before we get to Sisu, I want to acknowledge this so I don't forget it. Think about this. I was worried about this going into the movie because we've seen it fail so many times in so many other places. We had 5 tribes. It's amazing how well we pulled all that off because it didn't feel crowded.
Well, I think the way that they go about it is that each time we go to a location, we kind of introduce a character. Yeah. And because of that, I feel like the character that we introduce in each location kind of like represents the location as a whole. And I feel like that's some pretty organic storytelling right there.
We did 3 things to do that. Exactly what you said there, and that basically as we go forward, that's how we mainly get the location to really click in there in a natural, fluid way for the story. We do the recap up top with Raya and her father, so that in case anything else is missing, we have the information up front. And also, for the memory's sake, what we do is they're all named after parts of a dragon. You got heart, tail, talon, spine, fang. It all works.
And that is probably the most Avatar thing about all of this, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just so
sense.
impressed they got that to work. Because I was worried it's going to be overcrowded. And like, oh, it's going to be one of they're promising all this world building, but there's only so
you know
much
what? It's kind of like Pixar-esque in a way that it is legitimately pretty complicated, but the storytelling pulls it off.
A little bit, definitely very Pixar-esque and kind of had the flow of the story. And I guess just in regards to the world building, maybe a little Zootopia-esque. I don't know.
Well, I absolutely think this is the best Disney animated film that they've done since Zootopia. So I feel like
I don't have necessarily background. I do want to mention Don Hall directed this, the Big Hero 6 director. He did this. Little fun fact. All right. Should we talk about? So we said a lot of nice things up to this point.
Oh boy.
should we see where we're at on Sisu?
I feel like Sisu is this is just my opinion. I feel like Aquafina does a fine job. I really love the animation on her. I love some of the concepts around her. Oh, that dialogue, man. That dialogue. It hurts. It hurts. Especially because the rest of the movie is so goddamn good.
Mm-hmm.
How
She's
you
like this
feeling about
movie's
it?
version of Mushu from Mulan.
I don't know. I'm so mixed on like she's a lot of things. Like Mushu, I guess, is a decent comparison. What do you think, Dragon?
Well, well, first of all, let me say this. I think she's Sisu ultimately is, Aquafina is absolutely the make or break element of this film, no question.
Yeah.
And also kind of the Disney formula, or the most formulaic Disney element of the film as well. Well, we have like kind of we have kind of the wacky, kind of sidekick who's going to get a lot of the marketing attention, I'm sure.
I feel like they were trying to pull off another genie, and they.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where the formula really
work.
begins. It always begins. Genie's like always the go-to
Yeah.
said formula. Or else
No,
you
no, no.
replicate
But I'm
the
saying
genie.
like with this in particular, it's not just like genie in terms of like wacky sidekick. It's genie in terms of like like larger than life character who kind of like exists in an internal realm that's outside of time and space, which kind of I guess is the excuse to make pop culture references. But genie just works so much more organically within the tone of the film.
I think the
And
weirdest thing.
I'm sorry, really quick. I just need to hit this point, Dragon, because this is a big thing with me. Tone! Tone! Your tone needs to be consistent. There are definitely a few parts in this movie where it just it bugged me. Because I'm just like, pick a side, Disney. Just pick a side.
Yeah, I think the one modern thing they had in the movie that really kind of threw me that was in relation to the Sisu was the credit thing. That I didn't really get. I don't like. There's a lot of. It's how is there credit?
Yeah.
How do they keep a record of that? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
And when they
will
stopped her
say,
when she's bringing up credits, like, yeah, we're gonna address. Like, no, you don't have any credit. You don't live here. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But how do we have credit in the first place? How does this work?
I will say conceptually, I think that the strongest element of her character is how she actually does tie into Raya.
Sure. I
Kind
mean,
of like I feel like the she's over trusting, whereas Raya's too trusting, and the thematic thing with the gift idea of it all. I feel like that's all pretty well executed. It's just like I said, at the heart of it, inherently, it's mostly the dialogue on her specifically. Like, there's a couple other points in the movie where they have some modern dialogue that I'm not crazy about. Like I said, kind of you know, the the dragon nerd of it all. But I mean, overall, I think Aquafina's dialogue is and like I said, I don't want to diss Aquafina at all. I think she does a pretty decent job with the emotional stuff in this movie. But
Mm-hmm.
man, the comedy stuff just does not land.
yeah, here's the thing. So I think, yeah, functionally towards the plot, I concur to you. I think she works, and I like the whole multiple abilities of the siblings thing as we reach each kind of leg in our journey. Like she kind of develops a new ability.
Uh-huh.
Again, I think she's got an overall very pleasant demeanor. Again, the whole gift is like kind of like when you greet someone, you bring a gift because it's good manners. Essentially, it's like it's the olive branch move. And of course, I think one of the most hysterical gags in the movie was when she laid out her plan for how to deal with the Namari situation.
That was legitimately funny.
Why don't we ask for Namari's help?
That was the one bit. That was the one bit where I was definitely cracking up a little bit.
They become besties, and it's hilarious.
I think the animation sells that bit.
It does. Now, just with your earlier point, I love that. Yeah, basically, Sisu is the embodiment of Raya's father's philosophy, and I think that's why she ultimately she really works. I'm more positive, but again, I'm saying I hear your complaints. I'm saying I think ultimately it's like the functionality in the story works. But I mean, I also liked like the first reference, which was kind of borderline a modern reference, which was like the line we have early on is that we reveal that she when she saved everyone back then, it was like she gives the analogy. It was like it's like when you work on a class project, but like you were there, but you didn't quite participate as much as everyone.
But you still got credit for it.
Yeah, that exactly.
You didn't deserve it.
Yes. That was. I thought that was a really great way to kind of set the. I thought that set the tone for this character perfectly. Okay, so we're kind of in trouble with this character, but we'll see where
Right.
it goes. There's hope, and again, that's the whole thing. It's about the leap of faith. Where this dragon, you
I
put a
think
lot
by
of
the
stock
end
in.
of it, I was compelled enough. Like, unfortunately, let's just get into like one of the big spoilers right here because I feel like it's relevant to the conversation right now. Unfortunately, by the time we get into the big, low of lows moment where, spoiler alert, she gets killed. But hey, guys, guess what? Guess what? It's a Disney movie. It's a Disney movie, so she's coming back. She's coming back. Don't worry about it, guys.
No one's ever really gone.
Yeah, just like Baymax in Big Hero 6. Like when he went
God,
away.
or
Even Mufasa's getting the movie
Olaf
now.
was the one that really offended me, man. I was like, you're trying to pull this with me right now, Disney. Really? Anyways,
now we're bringing Mufasa back in a sense.
At least it took them into the sequel to pull that shit with Olaf. But
the Lion King remake.
Yeah.
Oh God! Well, I don't. I am still morbidly curious about that. Okay?
Emphasis on the morbid.
Yes, emphasis on the morbidly. Yes, emphasis on the morbidly.
Because I still throw every time I hear that, it's gonna be like Godfather Part 2. How much more overhyped can you get?
Okay, the biggest flaw with the Lion King remake was that it was just like the Gus Van Sant Psycho thing, where it was shot by shot. So at the very least, this shit is going to be different, man. At the very least, it's gonna there's going to be it sounds ballsy, honestly.
All right, but referring back to the moment itself, the actual the death of Cecil. So I thought the whole crossbow moment it was gutsy for sure.
It was super gutsy. Like I said, that my only thing is that I wish I was just at that point in the movie, I feel like that was the moment where I became emotionally invested in the character, but I wasn't really up until that point.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tig. I didn't mean to.
No, I was just saying. I feel like the moment would have hit a little harder if the character didn't actively annoy me earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you guys this, because this occurs to me, after watching it, getting ready for a little kind of sit down here. Is that? Do you think the dragons necessarily needed to come back at all at the end of the film?
That's a good question. Honestly, no.
Just think about it.
They didn't do much anyway.
Yeah, when we did, it's a spectacle, like a feel-good moment, but really, we don't need them at the end because again, the whole point is we
need the happy ending for the kids,
which is nice. But that's what I'm saying. It's nice. We didn't scar the kids for life and killing Cecil. But again, it would have been really gutsy had we done it because logically they shouldn't come back because when we finished off the Druin at the top of the film 500 years ago, the 4 dragons that sacrificed themselves, they didn't come back.
And
that left again the last dragon, hence our namesake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, it's why would the people coming back? That makes sense because that's what happened the first time. They brought the people back, but the dragons that shouldn't happen. But go figure.
Yeah.
Happy endings. But yeah, the crossbow, the death itself, though. Again, really, I love that. I love how messy that scene was. Where Raya's, I'm not really sure how to feel about it. But I really respect the crap out of it. Where Raya's lack of trust and her fear of betrayal again, which is fundamentally the big why trust was such an interesting theme for the film. Is that again, trust, you think, it gets an easy theme. Well, no, it's not an easy theme. Trust is something, it has to be broken and rebuilt. And, we have, God knows how many liar reveals in the Disney canon, and always trust is kind of glazed over. It's like us actually doing something with the theme of trust. We're going to ixnay the liar reveal. It's going to go straight to, the repairing thing that we always kind of, streamline. Well, we'll forgive her for the third act. It's no, let's see what forgiveness looks like for a movie, for a change. And it's this whole thing of, her lack of trust that she feels the fear of forgiving somebody ends up getting her new friend and essentially the symbol of hope for the film killed.
And I think my favorite moment in the movie is honestly the moment that immediately precedes that, where she is just pissed and she is just marching up to face her again. And you see just the anger in her face. And by the way, fantastic human animation. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
And the music in that scene too was amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even know what else to say about the music. I mean, the music was just it's just chef's kiss. I don't even I don't even know what else to say about it. It's fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But
And the way
also-
she walked too. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, Raya, again, I love everything about Raya's design too. I love how we kind of gave her. It's sort of like we gave her just a little. I'm gonna do a little sidebar here talking about the aesthetics of Raya because I love Raya's look. I love how it's kind of this old school travel from the east kind of like look she's got going on. Like she's got like kind of the rice. It's like the rice con. I forget the act. I think it's like a rice conical hat they call it. Like kind of the old. It's like the thing Samurai Jack has pretty much. It's kind of a different equivalent to that. She's got that. She's got kind of the cool poncho cape thing, very Clint Eastwood-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, her sword is freaking awesome. The Chris Whip sword. When she uses this thing, like it's her father's sword, I guess, a little thematic crux there. Is like can whip it around. It's awesome. It's like a literal dragon blade. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So riding Tuk Tuk too. Like, by the way, Tuk Tuk, Alan Tudyk.
Of
Crazy.
course, he's in every Disney movie.
Now he is. He's the new. He's Disney's Ratzenberg.
I feel like he could be a freaking fantastic ride vehicle.
Alan Tudyk. No, sir. I agree 100% though, Tiki. It's like, yeah, I love how he turns into like the giant wheel gyro thing. That's awesome.
I feel like the giant wheel gyro thing, like if you just have that as the ride vehicle, have some sort of like some sort of saddle. That's the word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think this movie's ever going to get a ride, but I'm saying like I feel like it fits though. I feel like it would. I feel like the setting would work for a theme park environment.
Now back to Claude's point about like kind of the epicness of the face-off and both like how great it looks, and once we get that kind of that big intense fight between the two forces we've been building up for 3 acts at this point, really well in 3 acts. Like they each have like a different kind of altercation kind of relationship in each act.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to the third one here where it's kind of the big like can we forgive? Can we move on here? I do. One issue I have is that Namari a little hypocritical. And we don't really address it. Is that the whole saying, Raya, you killed her too? Well, no, you pulled out the crossbow. You had a crossbow, and you're
you know what?
Yeah, you look like you were
actually,
about to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, like Raya did kind of like escalate the situation. But no, I hear you.
Well, you don't really get to say that because you pulled the crossbow. You were going to shoot somebody.
And you were debating it, at least, yeah.
Yeah. You saw that itchy trigger finger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess let's talk about some other stuff, I guess, because we already talked about how cool Tuk Tuk is. I mean, just the journey, kind of in summation. Let's do that by our supporting cast. Let's kind of go through our supporting cast here. So we have representations of the other tribes, which kind of I think as we go on, it's like Raya, she kind of gets to know people from the tribes that she's been so separated, kind of see them as enemies since that original betrayal 6 years ago. She's kind of basically it's the soup lesson progressing as it goes forward. It's like she's adding the ingredients to the soup until she serves them the soup essentially. So we have let's start with Boone. We have Boone, the kid in the boat, who actually is a chef.
He is probably my favorite character.
It was nice. I guess I was a little worried. I was worried about him, but then he sold me instantly. Initially, I'm saying, now we have the enterprising kid character, but they instantly sold me once we see what this boat thing was all about. Oh, he's got a little business on the boat.
I think this movie between Boone and the baby con artist, I forget her name. I'm sorry.
I think it's Noi. Yeah, it's Noi.
Yeah.
Noi.
I think between the two of them, man, I just I fucking like. Yeah, the kids in this movie are great. Just conceptually, both of them are just wonderful.
Well, I don't like the baby.
You don't like the baby, really?
Okay, at the very least, I'm okay.
Take.
Let me put it this way. Okay, hot take is that what's the word I'm looking for? I accept the baby. I don't love the baby. It is a baby that can steal things. As far as I'm going to go with it.
Conceptually, I think it's awesome. Honestly,
yeah, that's a great concept.
It's just, I just think the baby's a little much. It's like I think so far everything's been pretty. I don't know. At least
I think Aquafina's dialogue takes me out of it way more than you know what I like about the baby is that I feel like it's a great representation of, like how you can't trust anyone. It's like Raya is pretty much like, you see, even a toddler, man, even a toddler, come on.
I'm just saying we have this baby that's like a master thief, and I'm not just saying. I mean,
Oh,
like literally
Dragon,
a
no,
master.
you and I are. This is kind of like a points for subjectivity, Stephen moment right here, man.
I
Because
don't hate the baby. I'm just saying that was the moment where that was my Aquafina thing that you had, where you
okay,
had it with
okay,
the
I
baby.
mean
That's
that's
when
fair. That's
and
fair,
that
but
ultimately it sounds like we'll both accept those things. It's just it's not my favorite
right,
thing in the movie. It's like
all
look,
right.
I think I like how the baby fits into things once Tong enters the picture, but it's just like okay, so the baby,
That's what I'm saying. Like once Tong enters the picture, I feel like it gets
the
really
baby took
heartwarming.
time to grow on me at the very least, and
All
ultimately
right, that's fair. That's fair.
the baby doesn't really serve. It's because we don't go with the big heisty plan. Therefore, the baby's kind of why do we have the thieving baby now?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. The baby kind of like there's a purpose with the baby, and we don't really do that. And it's just like, hey, it's a baby that kind of punctuate. Everyone's dishonest around here. It's just it's okay.
I feel like there's less of an organic reason for her to stick around with the crew than there is for Boone,
Yeah,
because
like
Boone
Boone.
is like
Yeah,
their tour guide.
yeah. And also, I love. It seems to me I could be wrong here. Maybe you guys can clarify this if you recall better than I. Here is that basically Boone's thing. It's like a seaside restaurant and maybe a bit of like a guided boat tour.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I think he was
Oh,
also like mainly had all this food on board that they kind of had throughout, and it was like it sounds like he was also mainly it was kind of like a boat attraction. He's kind of taken on from his from his family. By the way, I love that each of these characters is like on the surface like they work kind of in that they have their shtick, and then we have like kind of a more kind of a pathos driven reason for like the loss that they've experienced. Like Boone
yeah.
misses his
I
family, even
feel
the
like they're
annoying
really well
sister.
written side characters in that way.
Speaking of which, Tong, I think, was the MVP. I love Tong, played by the great Benedict Wong.
Benedict.
Oh yeah,
Tong playing Wong, or Wong playing Tong.
right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah,
Yeah, his
I
was
thought he was
hysterical.
wonderful. I feel like he's probably the least developed out of all the side characters, but he doesn't really need a ton of development. You pretty much get what this character is all about as soon as he opens his mouth.
I don't know. Between him and Boone, I think technically it's more lip service towards his stuff, or we voice it. But then again, I think we convey it with Tong without a word of dialogue. 'Cause we see
I guess we do.
one.
I guess I'm just maybe it's just the fact that he's the last one to show up.
Sure.
So in that respect, he just by process of elimination gets less screen time.
I love that we just take him. He's just like big axe wielding, kind of spine warrior. And again, it seems like, oh god, we're gonna have like an interim bad guy or something here. We're like, no, not at all. It's just we just take the gag of this menacing leader, but he's alone. There's no one else there. It's like, wait, are you alone here? Once the other bad?
One of the thoughts I was having throughout when I was watching this is that if I was a kid and this movie came out, I would probably watch it over and over again just based on how likable all the characters are. And I
Yeah.
feel like the movie does go in a really good clip of like, oh, here's this compelling character. Now here's this compelling character. And I honestly feel like it is going to be pretty rewatchable in that regard just because of the pace. I feel like I feel like the tone of this movie is a little mixed for sure. That could be improved, but I feel like the pace of the movie is wonderful.
The film's a tight. Here's the thing, so in case anyone's wondering, the film's really like a tight hour, 35 minutes. When
Yeah.
really you
Oh
have
God.
like
Let's see.
all sorts of
You want to just
credits. But
you want to just pick this nit right now, Dragon.
yeah, yeah. So
All
like
right.
already, usually when we kind of talk about runtime, usually I kind of lump out the credits. But now what we have on, especially on Disney Plus, I don't know how this would have been theatrically, is that they now have like all these extra like unneeded credits where it's like they're talking about like dubs every which way, and it's like just, it goes on forever. It's like not even like the moving credits. These are like the credits. Like if I recall, I might be thinking of Netflix here because I think that was something like less long than this. But it's like at the very end, you have like the credits kind of like pop up on screen. They don't even like crawl. I
Oh,
recall. It's just now the credits have gotten so long. The movie's really an hour, like an hour and a half, like pretty dead on. I mean, maybe 5 minutes extra. And
hour
then
35 on the spot.
yeah, hour 35 on the spot, sure. But it's an hour 45 because of 10 minutes of
Yeah.
credits.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh God.
It's better than the old days of Disney where they had the credits at the beginning. No.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Did
honestly
they
kind
split
of
the
miss.
difference with that? Did they like? What did you lose time with the end credits because it was half up front, half in back, or
No, yeah, in the old days of Disney, like the Walt era,
yeah,
They're like Peter Pan, for
yeah, yeah?
example, in the movie.
They said Peter Pan had no end credits because it was all up
no,
front.
there were no end credits for most, if
Yeah,
not all, of the
back
Walt
back
era,
when
as far as
back when
I
the
know.
process was simpler, but also you have to imagine we shafted a lot of people on those productions in doing that.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, like there were ink and paint. I'm sure was just like, hey, ink and paint. The department gets shouted up, but all the people probably not. Let's
but
be up. Early days.
one thing about that though is I do miss the intro songs. I
That
feel
was
like
nice though. Yeah,
that's a lost art.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that
Claude's got
How
me thinking about the
is
Peter Pan
it
opening, which is really nice.
that I don't mind the song, just the credits that I don't like.
Yeah.
Being,
Just
Fair
with the
enough.
characters too.
I feel like the credits in the old Disney movies kind of they kind of served as an overture, if you will. But
Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
the old movies, sure, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right. Anyway,
With the tribe, something that also occurs to me that's kind of reflected within the characters and everything. Is I love how each tribe has like a distinct style and kind of also a subversion 6 years later. Think about it. Tail. That's the Mad Max one. Not a lot on the tail, admittedly. At the end of the day, and that's kind of the gag. Is like, hey, we killed the leader of the tail, so like no problem there. Like we just get the gem back. The one it's dead.
uh-huh.
Go with the desert setting. Talon. Have the marketplace. The pickpockets, the con men, and with the spine, you have warriors, but there's no army. Warrior culture, but no army.
Right.
Fang, it's kind of the infamy of these guys are the Fang that are responsible for all this mess in
No,
the
no, no.
desert.
Dragon Fang, there's only two words that you need to describe Fang. All right. Word number one is fire. Word number two is nation.
Well, there you go.
Final Nation. Mm-hmm.
But that's the point being well
Like
intended.
less malicious Fire Nation. I'll say that much.
Sure. That's the
Less
point.
malicious, more just they're jerks.
Yes, and the subversion there being they were well intended, but again,
Right,
it was more
right.
selfish, but well intended. And again, like it's all like if you want to boil it down even further, I mean, spine is like courage, fangs, danger, and or potentially poisonous. But more like dangerous, not snake. I don't want to get poison. Poison's dangerous. Fangs.
Okay, Dragon, I am curious because I brought it up a couple times and you haven't really reacted to it. What did you think of the Civil War style location titles?
Well, I don't remember them being as big in Civil War. I remember them being on the screen though, and I was like, I'm always down for that sort of thing. It just didn't really phase me like they were really big oversized Civil War credits. But I might have
They're
missed
not
that.
as big as Civil War,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
they're prominent. They make an impression.
I'm saying Tiki's Civil War credits are like big and prominent, man. But yeah,
it's hard to physically make credits as big as the Civil War ones. All right, but still,
I don't see like Lagos on the screen. Budapest. Well, it's not Budapest, but
Oh God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still thought it was a nice. I feel like if anything else, it was a nice framing device.
No, you're right. It is. I'm just saying I wouldn't quite make the Civil War connection, but when you bring up, let me say, talking about like text on the screen, yeah, sure.
It's prominent, man. It's like at least 75% as big as the Civil War text. I think.
All right, fine.
Anyways.
All right. Yet again, like with the Talon thing, I like the Talons are like being the crooked ones. The Talon is kind of a crooked, thing.
Uh-huh.
Tail's kind of a journey because we're going to that Mad Maxy desert, and of course the heart, honor, love, that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Also, can I just say this movie just totally redeems the whole heart thing from Captain Planet.
True.
Like it's totally like unironically like, yeah, man, heart. And I don't know, I kind of dig that we really legitimize the doing the heart thing with your hands. Like I kind of dig that we turned that into like an inspirational symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did. It's kind of weird. For some reason, when I first saw, it, I thought they were less doing the heart thing. They were more doing like trying to like make the orb thing.
You know what? Maybe they are making the orb thing.
Here's the weird thing. I tried making that as an orb, and I can't do it to make it look as good as it did in animation. I can only do the heart thing. I don't know why I can't do if I do the orb thing, the fingers separate. It doesn't look as good because that's not what they did. Which makes me think it has to be the hard thing, because I think the other one's physically impossible. At least it's impossible for me. I don't know.
I feel like it's a better version of the Hunger Games hand symbol thing.
Sure. I guess I really like the resolutions of the film. Ultimately, I love that whole.
I'm not gonna lie, I cried a little bit, man. I thought that the theme of the movie came together super well. Okay, if there's one thing that I am an absolute goddamn sucker for when it comes to like an emotional payoff, it's a whole fucking crowd of people like acknowledging the hard work that the main character did. I think the most famous example that I always cite, and this is like my go-to example of like a movie moment that just makes me cry on cue, is Dragon. I'm sorry, I know you're not a Lord of the Rings guy, but at the end of the Lord of the Rings, just allow me to get on my Tolkien perch for a second here.
Okay.
Perch.
At the end of Lord of the Rings, during one of the 5 endings of Return of the King, when Aragorn is crowned king and he walks up to the 4 hobbits, and the 4 hobbits just instantly bow to him, and Aragorn is just super humble, and he's just like, "My friends, you bow to no one." And oh god, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it, man. Honestly, like just all of the races of Middle Earth bowing down to those hobbits, and god, and I feel like seeing Daniel Day Kim's character, and like you should be proud of your daughter. She did all this, like like welcome, like this is it. This is what you were dreaming. That hit me, man. It really legitimately, like, it was a solid. Like, I'm not gonna say it was an Onward ending, because I feel like Onward is legitimately like one of the all timers in terms of just emotionally satisfying endings. But I mean, it was a it might not be a grand slam of an ending, but I would say it was a solid home run.
It was a satisfying reunion between father and daughter. But yeah, it was the fact that her father, he has his faith rewarded because he just wanted to bring everyone together.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we knew that the reunion was going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
that's obvious. We knew that was going to happen. Like I said, what I felt more satisfying about that was how the themes were tied together. That was the extra gut punch for me.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying to you. I love how everyone is like, they're rewarding the faith of this case. They all ruined his little happy get together at the start of the film. They're all kind of like, it's the ultimate apology, like, our greed got in the way, and we kind of like, we violated your trust.
They all should have made him a new soup, man. They ruined his soup.
God. But yeah, also just building to that resolution. I mean, I guess kind of the climax as well. That kind of builds to that ultimately. I love how, again, Raya takes her own leap of faith. Again, kind of taking the lesson from her father after losing.
I thought
Sisu.
that was a freaking pretty powerful image, man. All of them making that sacrifice in terms of the stone. Some pretty powerful imagery there. I really thought that, it kind of some shades of the original Frozen with Anna turning to ice, but I feel like it was honestly conceptually even more well done.
Yeah, 2 things. One, Tiki visual.
Yes, I know. I'm working on it.
Secondly, I love how, it's kind of like, I'm going to pull an analogy since you pulled the Lord of the Ring ones. It's kind of like it's the old, one of the great kind of, it's like in Dark Knight Rises when, Bruce, you have to jump without the rope. It's like running your nose the whole time. It's like, well, what's the ultimate sign of trust? Well, it made all the sense in the world. Raya is going to, she's going to have to, go with nothing held back. We're okay, I'm gonna give you the stone first, and we've taken out our title hero. We've taken out the title character as the ultimate show of trust, and giving it to Namari, who again is all the is the
she gets the Zuko moment, man, and it works.
Absolutely. It's so bold and it's so brilliant,
Yeah.
Trusting the Namari to save the day, all following suit. It's a great moment. It's a little Guardians of the Galaxy, yes, too. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's like them all kind of like the fact they're all kind of putting themselves in a line there. It's like when they're all like joining hands,
And also the fact that they've all lost family members and they kind of bond over that, and they're all kind of like outcasts and kind of like morally ambiguous in a way.
Exactly. And also, when we do that reunion, I love that we see everyone returning to their families, like as we build to that.
Yeah, that was that's actually something that Lord of the Rings doesn't have. you think after freaking like 11 hours, you'd see like shots of Legolas and Gimli and whatnot returning to their family, but no. But no, we do get that with this, and I feel like that was another kind of like satisfying thing about this movie for sure. Was I feel like it was very quick wrap ups for the characters, but very satisfying at the same time.
Yeah, and it all became Commandra again. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. And a little Dragon Light show because, for the kids.
Oh, okay. So one thing, I feel like this is a good point to end off on for me. So I'll kind of like wrap up into my final thoughts here. A positive thing about the dragon. I really love what they do with the actual animation of the dragon. Like say what you will about the characterization. I have my issues with the characterization to be sure. I love the actual animation, specifically what we do with the water. And I will say
the rain
this.
thing.
The rain thing was a gasp moment for me.
Yeah.
A legitimate gasp moment. That is some legitimate, like, oh man, like that was some Disney artistry right there, man. I fucking love that imagery. So yeah, ultimately kind of folding into my final thoughts, like I said, I honestly feel like this movie was one draft away from being like one of the all-timers, but I still think this is incredibly solid stuff. I mean, I do feel like it's head and shoulders above most of the stuff from the Disney CG era in my view. Like I like this a lot. I like this better than a lot of some fans' favorites. Like let's say a Wreck-It Ralph. I honestly think this is a little bit stronger in my humble opinion, just because of just the emotional payoffs are so big, and like I said, the score just artistically everything comes together. Ultimately, I just think, like I said, I feel like this is the next. I feel like this is Walt Disney Animation Studios leveling up. Like, can Disney please do more stuff like
make
this?
more originals?
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Content.
Like, because this movie is just proof that when Disney puts their mind to it and they come up with good world building and good characters and have a good team behind it and great animation mixed with great music, I mean they can come up with something special. And I don't think this is like an A+ movie, but I think it's a solid A- to be sure. And I think it's a shame that it's probably gonna get like already. What's sad? I'll leave the like. Let's circle this back around to a somewhat somber note here. The Tom and Jerry movie is a bigger box office hit than this is, and I'm not talking like streaming dollars.
Yeah, it's unfortunately,
yeah. Like I'm talking like actual money made at the box office. And the more depressing thing about that is that like fucking Tom and Jerry is free on HBO Max. Like it's cheaper to go to the movie theater to see Raya. It's depressing. It's depressing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, that's probably nostalgia talking for some people.
I guess so. I mean, maybe. Well, fuck me. We can't have original IPs then, can we? Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't mean to end this on a pessimistic note. Claude, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great movie that shows us what Disney has in store for like the future in terms of like 3D anime movies like Moana and Zootopia and Frozen and this and so on. And luckily, we won't have to wait long for the next Disney movie because later this year we have Encanto. So
I forgot that's this year. Ooh, that's exciting.
If it doesn't get delayed.
Of course, yo.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I think that's starring Stephanie Beatrice too. So.
Oh, I love her.
Nice.
It's great. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Can't do even more now. Anyway, final thoughts for me. Final thoughts for me. I'm head over heels for what this movie's about and how well conveyed it is. The action's great. The world is fun. Sometimes Disney does its best work under the radar. We've kind of seen that again in kind of the period we were alluding to earlier, kind of your Emperor's New Grooves and your Treasure Planets and your Atlantises and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But I just hope I really hope that this gets the attention it deserves sooner rather than later. I mean, again, history is not the
It's only
kindest.
going to be a few months before it's free on Disney Plus, and I feel like that might be when it blows up. Hopefully,
Yeah,
So we
but
can,
Tiki, yeah. No. But yeah, it's this like I every time I go into the Disney store, I see all this Raya merchandise, and it's just I don't see it moving,
yeah.
and it's
yeah,
just and that's what makes me sad is that again like I'm the marketing and everything, and again it being
I
on
don't.
Disney
To be
Plus.
fair, this is not the most toygenic movie in the world, and I kind of respect it for that.
Sure,
yeah,
sure, but I'm just saying, like, as it doesn't quite. That's maybe you're. I'm hoping that you're right. T. I really am. I'm hoping that because logic, my heart of hearts, I was thinking, okay, everyone's going to see it on Disney Plus, therefore it's going to go over like gangbusters. But unfortunately, what's kind of happening is, I'm seeing like the signs like that, but I'm also like you seeing signs that people are reporting the wrong things when it comes to this movie. It's like, hey, like small letters, like, hey, good movie. Big letters, low box office. Well, yeah, of course, I
Oh
wonder
yeah.
why.
Oh well. You know what? All that noise.
It's like, why
Whatever.
can't we just flip that? Because again, hey, yeah, great movie,
Yeah.
but again, it's always about the
Yeah.
pandemic, guys. It's like, what do you expect? Like,
Well, like
come
I said, I
on.
feel like I feel like that says less about the quality of the movie and more about like where we are as a culture that fucking Tom and Jerry beat it out. Again, that's the most that's the more depressing headline is the Tom and Jerry
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's especially you can imagine when they're saying like, hey, Tom and Jerry did better than this new Disney movie. What is that? I fear we're going to set some wrong precedents and everything. But the important takeaway that I hope people really kind of focus on, kind of hopefully kind of taking away from our little combo here, is that all the ingredients of our little movie soup here came together. All the proper ingredients kind of made something really nice, nice and tasty, and something to kind of savor, something to just kind of enjoy and go back to and order again, if you will. Kind of this soup of unity that is Raya,
Uh-huh.
Last
yeah.
Dragon.
All right, well said. So
Mhm.
so Dragon, you said soup. Well, you know what I
Yes.
say to that?
What do you say to that?
No soup for you.